GOP took back the presidency, control of the U.S. Senate, could retain the House. Joining us now for more on the election is Steven Webster, an associate professor of political science at Indiana University, author of the book American Rage: How Anger Shapes Our Politics. Welcome back to the show. So nice to have you. One of the things that really stood out was that 10 million fewer votes that were cast for the presidential nominee than in 2020. Why do you think that happened?
I think there's a lot of potential reasons. I think one is that this election is different from 2020 in that we're no longer in a pandemic. And so during the pandemic election, we made it quite easy to vote. Lots of people were able to vote by mail. We didn't have quite that luxury this time. I think it could be the nature of the campaigns, too. Different campaigns have different strategies for trying to target voters. And so I think we're going to have to wait to do some more analysis of the data to better understand why fewer people turned out in this election.
With the GOP winning the White House, Senate, most likely the House, where do you see partisan divide in this country heading? I mean, is it going to get worse?
Probably so. I think what we're likely to see over the next 2 years in Washington is a pretty firm Republican grip on power. You'll see Democrats most likely in the Senate try to block Republican initiatives. But I think there's going to be a lot of partisan gamesmanship leading up to the midterm elections. And if you're hoping for a sort of cooling of tensions between Democrats and Republicans, I think you're likely to be disappointed.
So this election was said to be a referendum on democracy. So is this country at a crossroads?
You know, this is a really important question. This is certainly the case that Democrats wanted to make this an election about democracy. We know that lots of voters had other things on their minds, so things like inflation, the cost of living. And so it's unclear what voters were thinking about when they voted, but we do know that not everyone was concerned about this issue of democracy.
So what impact do you think this might see on universities and schools when we talk about promise to shutter the Department of Education and threats to liberal, quote unquote, universities?
Yeah, I think this is something that conservatives have pushed for a long time. This has been a goal of theirs for decades now, getting rid of the Department of Education. But one thing we know is that government agencies tend to be sticky. They tend to persist. And I think while it's certainly possible that Republicans could get rid of the Department of Education, I don't think it's probable. I think they're more likely to spend their political capital on other issues.
We just have a few seconds left. What are you going to look at these next couple of months? What are you watching for?
What I'm most interested in is who Donald Trump picks to be in his cabinet. There's lots of rumors about who might be in the cabinet, and so I think that's the most interesting development to watch between now and when Donald Trump takes office.
Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.